Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of nature's most, well, bizarre survival strategies. It's a story all about unwilling hosts and some very, very sneaky parasitic guests that live just beneath the skin. So what actually happens when a fly looks at another living creature and thinks, you know what, that's the perfect nursery for my kids? We're about to explore a parasitic relationship that is, let's be honest, pretty unsettling, but at the same time, biologically, it's absolutely brilliant. Yup, there's a name for this. It's called Myiasis, and it is exactly what it sounds like, the infestation of a live animal by maggots that are feeding on its tissue. I know it sounds pretty out there, but believe it or not, this is an incredibly effective survival strategy for some of nature's most, let's say, resourceful insects.
Okay, so let's dig in. How in the world does a fly manage to turn a living, breathing animal into a nursery for its young? Let's break it down.
You know, when you think of flies, you probably think of, well, decaying stuff, right? But for some species, that's just not going to cut it. They've evolved this really wild survival strategy where they skip the decaying matter and deposit their young directly onto a living animal. This turns that poor creature into an unwilling host and, you guessed it, a source of fresh food. But here's where it gets really fascinating, the life cycle of these parasites. To really get our heads around it, we're going to look at a very specific and actually pretty common example. And that example is the horse stomach botfly. By looking at this one parasite, you're going to see just how incredibly intricate and, well, codependent this whole process really is. Okay, so this whole life cycle is a journey in 6 steps, and it is just wild. First, the adult fly lays its eggs right on the horse's hair. But get this, here's the genius part. Those eggs don't hatch on their own. Nope. They wait until the horse itself licks them, and the warmth and moisture trigger the hatching. It's incredible. From there, the larvae burrow into the mouth, start this long journey down to the stomach, and then they just hang out there for months growing. Once they're all grown up, they get passed out in the horse's poop, they pupate in the soil for a few weeks, and then, boom, they emerge as adult flies, ready to start this whole creepy but perfect cycle all over again. And if you thought that was specific, hold on, because it gets even more dialed in. We're not just talking about botflies targeting horses in general. Oh no, different species have actually evolved to target very precise spots on the horse's body. It's all about maximizing the odds of being ingested. So you have one species, G. intestinalis, that lays its eggs on the forelegs and shoulders, exactly where a horse is likely to nibble. Then there's G. nasalis, which goes for the hairs right under the jaw. And G. hemorrhoidalis, it goes right for the lips. This is not random, folks. This is pure, strategic precision targeting. So you're probably wondering, okay, but does this actually hurt the horse? And that's a great question. A lot of the time, from the outside, the horse might seem perfectly fine. But on the inside, it's a totally different story. Having these larvae constantly burrowed into the stomach lining is definitely not harmless. It can lead to some really nasty stuff like chronic inflammation and even painful ulcers. All right, so at this point, you're probably thinking, wow, that's crazy. Glad I'm not a horse. Well, the story doesn't quite end there. You know, sometimes the most chilling things are hidden away in a really dry, scientific sentence. Take this one, for example. Ocular myiasis of humans has been reported. Ocular means eye. And yeah, it means exactly what you're afraid it means. So this is what's called ocular myiasis. It's a rare condition, thank goodness, but it's very serious. It happens when a fly, usually one that's looking for a sheep, makes a mistake. It deposits its larvae right into a human eye, and that eye becomes the new host. It's just a powerful and honestly a deeply unnerving reminder that sometimes these parasites can and do cross species lines. So that begs the question, right? How on earth do vets or doctors figure out if an animal, or a person, is infested with a parasite that's living so deep inside them? Well, the methods are, let's just say, pretty direct. In a living animal, the proof can be pretty dramatic, literally seeing the mature larvae get sneezed out. Yeah. But after death, it gets way more invasive. We're talking about a really deep examination of the skull to find them. It just goes to show how challenging it is to find a parasite that's hiding so deep inside its host. And all of this really makes you think, doesn't it? It challenges our whole perspective. You have the botfly, whose entire existence, its entire life cycle, depends completely on another living creature to survive. It's this incredibly intimate and, yeah, often unsettling connection that kind of makes you question the lines we draw between one life form and another. You know, who's really the host and who's just the guest?